My name's Leigh, and I am the Program Director for Integrative Medicine at the George Washington School of Medicine and Health Sciences. And I am a nutritionist, a nutrition scientist. In my family, we grow up being a little bit more nutrition conscious than other families because my mother had an interest in nutrition and always thought the food that we ate was really important because it was going to be what fueled us for the day. So I was lucky in that sense. And also my father was a gardener, so I had a real connection to produce and the garden. I think that's maybe somewhat unique compared to others who maybe grew up in the big city and didn't have access to a garden. My career definitely has been a journey, and I think most people end up having that type of experience, even though they think it's going to be this very perfect plotted process. You really kind of evolve over time. I started off getting a degree in biochemistry with the idea that I was pre-med and I was going to be an MD. And I went and worked as a research assistant, and I just fell in love with research. And I saw how the MDs were kind of pulled between their clinical practice and their research practice. And for me, it was really the research that was driving me. So that's where I decided to go to graduate school rather than medical school. And I got a master's in immunology because I was really interested in the role of inflammation in chronic health, obesity, sleep apnea. That's what I was studying. And while I was there was a lecture about vitamin D and tuberculosis in armadillos. And it really just blew my mind that you could have this scientific approach to nutrition, because they were looking at the role of vitamin D in the immune response to tuberculosis and how if you were vitamin D deficient, you couldn't mount an immune response. And that's when I decided to go into nutrition. So in terms of knowing about nutrition as a profession, I think it's really important that people realize that it's very broad, and the terms are even a little bit not well defined. So some people work in nutrition and they're a physician. They're a doctor seeing patients every day, maybe a primary care physician who needs to know about nutrition because their patients are coming in with heart disease or obesity or high blood pressure, where the first line of defense is diet and lifestyle. Others may be registered dietitians who are actually trained to work with patients and work out a plan to improve their diet. They know a lot about medications and nutrition that maybe others wouldn't know those interactions. Then there's a whole other group of people who work in nutrition who are called nutritionists. And they may be food scientists that work in labs, for instance, a big company like McCormick, or they may be nutrition scientists such as myself, people who study the effects of nutrition, and they know a lot about nutrition, but they are not really certified to give dietary advice in a clinical setting. That is changing somewhat with the advent of the certified nutrition specialist, which now you can be a nutritionist who knows a lot about diet and lifestyle, but doesn't necessarily know the medical and drug components. So you can still talk to someone and coach them on improving their diet and lifestyle, but you won't necessarily be able to talk to them about their high blood pressure medication. Nutrition has evolved over the last 100 years. At the turn of the last century, we were just discovering vitamins. Vitamin D was discovered by E.V. McCollum, and we didn't know what caused rickets prior to that. We just knew that these kids who lived in the inner cities got rickets, and we said it was a disease of darkness and poverty. And we were trying to treat it with things. We realized that cod liver would do it, and then we realized that sunshine would do it, but we didn't know what the actual mechanism was. So we started to find out these molecules, and we got really fixated on these molecules, and that you needed to eat this because it had this nutrient in it. And we forgot about the fact that we eat foods. People don't eat nutrients, they eat foods. And so recently there's been this coming back to the idea of focusing on food and the health benefit of an apple, not just the vitamins in the apple. There's more to it. For instance, apple contains a phytonutrient called quercetin, which is really healthy for us, but we don't really know a lot about it, and it's not a nutrient in the traditional sense. And that's why whole foods nutrition is becoming more of the center. Right now, it seems like nutrition is moving in the direction of personalized nutrition, realizing that no diet is the right diet. There's no one diet that fits every person. Some people do really well on a Mediterranean diet. Other people do well on a paleo diet or a vegan diet. But we don't know what that one is necessarily just from looking at you. And so we're developing techniques like genomics and metabolomics to try and identify what the right diet might be for you. Genomics is the study of genes and how your genes are expressed. So you have genes and then they're expressed in a way that affects your body. And metabolomics is sort of the end product of that. So what is produced from the genes and how your body metabolizes it. So you can think of it that way. Genomics has a gene and metabolomics is about the metabolism. So something that I think is going to be really crucial moving forward for healthcare is to incorporate nutrition in all aspects. And fortunately in medical school right now, they only get maybe a week of nutrition. Same thing with PAs and nurse practitioners. And there's a big movement to change that because we know how important nutrition is for treating chronic disease or preventing diseases such as cancer. And we're starting to realize that without nutrition, all of our other efforts are just not going to make an effect. If I were to talk to a pre-health professional about nutrition, I have to be honest, I'm very biased. I think nutrition is a very exciting field to come into. It's growing, it's developing as a science as well as a healthcare field. There's a great need for it now, and it's only going to increase in the future as chronic disease increases and as the awareness of the importance of nutrition in treating these diseases increases. So I would say this is a field to get into. It's absolutely going to be a solid career. Also, there's so many different options for how you can work in nutrition. You could be a scientist, you could be a dietitian, or you could be an MD who specializes in treating patients with diet and lifestyle.